So here's everything that Trump has did this week. So there were more mentions of Trump in the Epstein files, which is starting to be a daily, weekly occurrence. More files are being uploaded by the Department of Justice, and more things about Trump and the accusations towards Trump has been revealed. So this one was more children being buried under his golf courses and things of that nature. Another thing that was released within the Epstein files was a drafted press release of Epstein's suicide a day before it actually happened, which is very, very strange. There also was an account that they used a fake body made of boxes to distract the press and the public. Why you would need to do that makes no sense at all, but apparently that's what was said, that there was some type of fake body made of boxes to distract the public. Trump also seized and investigated voting machines in Puerto Rico. This was not part of any criminal case in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico did not request this. It was just done because Trump can do it. Although Puerto Rico does not vote for the president of the United States, it doesn't have any electoral college votes. It looks like Trump is trying to get information about how voting machines work, and because Puerto Rico doesn't really have much, they don't really have, they can't really push back much with the federal government. You know, they just ran in there and just took their voting machines. But Trump had already seized the ballots in Georgia, and Georgia officials now stated the ballots that were seized by the Trump administration is now unsecured, meaning that Trump or anyone in his office can tamper with those ballots and claim that they've found fraud. Now, you may think that these things are unrelated or they don't have any meaning. You have to think about the elections are coming up this year. It's the midterm elections. Trump has said before that his supporters would not have to vote again. So by seizing voting machines and ballots in different states, Trump can now make the argument that these voting processes in these different states that he doesn't agree with, that there's some type of fraud. So keep that in mind in the months to come. If you start to see conversation about ICE agents or federal law enforcement either seizing voting machines or being posted at polling places. Trump also signed a bill to end the latest government shutdown, which once again showed the Democrats have no backbone and continue to fund ICE and all of ICE's craziness. However, the Trump administration has withdrawn all National Guard troops from patrol in United States cities, which is a great thing. People just do not want the military riding down your street with tanks and rifles. Trump also announced the creation of the U.S. Critical Minerals Reserve. And he makes these types of announcements all the time. It's normally just to move the stock market, like what he did with the U.S. Crypto Reserve. So you can check that out and compare both of them. Doesn't really mean much of anything. But Trump also, he launched the new Trump RX, which is a new pharmaceutical drug service with almost nothing on there. Of all of the 43 drugs on there, most of them are taken from other services like Good RX. And the ones that are already on there have generic brand drugs that are cheaper than the deals offered on the website. Trump has also deployed body cams on all ICE agents in Minneapolis, but only after 2 citizens have been killed. They probably would have been very useful to have those body cameras before people started getting killed. But I guess better late than never. And just today, ICE is withdrawing from their agents from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And when you think about what has been going on in Minnesota and Minneapolis, and you think about where this started, how it started with a YouTuber who was, kicking down the door in daycares trying to find fraud and didn't really expose anything that was new, because this fraud that has been reported has been investigated. People have already went to jail and been charged for this. So this was just a preemptive reason for Trump to now send the National Guard into Minneapolis to harass the Somali community and then the overall community of Minneapolis and Minnesota, just to be able to make life difficult for the citizens of Minnesota that did not vote for Trump, and also Trump's pretty hatred of Tim Walz, who ran against Trump with Kamala Harris in the 2024 presidential race. But staying in Minnesota, in a report that came out this week, it says the government tried to restrict investigations of Renee Good. She's the woman that was shot in her car by the ICE agent. And instead of focusing the investigation on the shooting and on the ICE agent, or even on Renee Good, the focus of the investigation ended up turning into the spouse of Renee Good. So as a result, a bunch of career veteran prosecutors resigned in protest of such kind of like ridiculous acts to investigate the widow of the person who was killed. Trump has also started talks with Israeli generals to discuss tensions with Iran. Trump has already sent multiple carrier jets and thousands of troops to the area, kind of like what he did with Venezuela. So we can look to these moments as maybe some some evidence that things are really getting bad in the Middle East, and there may be some type of invasion or some type of military exercise pointed towards Iran. So stay tuned for that. Trump is set to close the Trump Kennedy Center for 2 years for renovations. However, a lot of it is the embarrassment that there are a limited amount of performers wanting to perform at the Kennedy Center since Trump has taken it over, which means that they don't have anybody that are buying tickets. So as a kind of like save face, they're going to be shutting the doors and doing some renovations that will keep the place closed for the next 2 years, and probably through Trump's term, because they don't want to have empty seats and no performers at the Kennedy Center. A couple court verdicts to take note of. A judge stopped Trump from ending the protective status for 350,000 Haitian immigrants. This would have made all of them eligible for deportation, thus by default making them undocumented for no reason. And when you think about how someone, you think about how we label someone illegal, someone undocumented, it is as finicky and as easy to now make someone undocumented. Well, at least Trump attempted to just make 350,000 Haitian immigrants who were here on protective status to just wave his finger, and now these folks are eligible for deportation and now undocumented. So, we have to think about what does that mean and how kind of like fragile somebody's immigration status can be based on just the whims of the president and the whims of Donald Trump. Next court case was the Supreme Court allowed California's new congressional map to go forward for the 2026 midterm elections. An appeals court upheld Trump's demand to end DEI across the federal government, aka black jobs being ended across the federal government. I mean, as most of us understand, DEI in the sense of how they use it just means black. An appeals court unfroze the funding for New York City Tunnel after Trump froze the funding for no reason at all, besides the fact that he just could. An appeals court upheld a decision to allow Trump to detain migrants without the possibility of parole, which is absolutely insane and goes against due process and everything. Last thing, Bad Bunny performed at the Super Bowl, and conservatives, MAGA, they just went crazy. They were talking about, they couldn't understand what Bad Bunny was saying. They were just, they were just coming with all types of just ridiculous complaints and whining about the performance, about whether or not this should have been a Bad Bunny performance at all, saying that he's anti-American, although Puerto Rico is it's certainly a part of the United States, but it was just pretty kind of like ridiculous. Kid Rock performed at Turning Point USA's alternative halftime show. Not a big Kid Rock fan at all, but one of the things that was kind of ridiculous about Kid Rock is some of his comments that he made after the Super Bowl, where he said that Jay Z, in his mind, was a bit of a DEI hire for the person that would put together the Super Bowl. Now, I think it's important to note that when folks are talking about DEI, they're talking about someone that they believe has been given a job that they did not earn, and that job should have went to someone else. And that's normally a way to discard and discredit what a particular black candidate or a particular black person who may have been hired for the job, to say that their expertise and their skills is not the reason why they were hired. It's because of some imaginary quota, some imaginary DEI that has caused them to skip the line and get a position over someone who is probably more qualified, or specifically probably someone that's more white. But when you mention something like this about Jay-Z, who in this generation is probably um, the most successful rapper, has always had his has always had his finger on the pulse of the country of music, has sold millions and millions and millions of records. And for someone like Kid Rock to say that Jay-Z, who has reached the height of music achievement, that if Kid Rock says that he himself, Jay-Z, the billionaire, is a DEI hire, then how does he feel about, the average person like myself, the average black person, the average brown person like myself, who hasn't achieved that level of success? So to even call Jay-Z a DEI hire was just like one of the most ridiculous things that I've ever heard. But it certainly tracks with how MAGA and conservatives look at black people, look at brown people, look at Bad Bunny as currently the most successful artist in the world. Jay-Z, probably the greatest rapper mogul in the world, and these people don't get the respect of folks who are pretty much trash like Kid Rock. But I divest. So a few numbers we want to talk about is inflation, which is 2.7 and steady. Unemployment is 4.4% and steady. Gas prices average around $3.05 and going down, and the price of eggs is around $2.70 and going down. Last thing, Trump golf trips. So far in the second term, President Trump has spent the taxpayers have spent about $130 million in funding Trump's golf trips this year, which is since the beginning of his the second term, which is Obama spent roughly half of that during the same time period of Trump's term, and Biden, which was 61 million for Obama, and Biden only spent 56 million on golf trips in his whole presidency. So that's another. There's another week of Donald Trump, another week of the political perspective. Always remember, if you are not political, then you do not have a perspective. Till next time, peace.